Q&A with The Power of the Dog. I'm so pleased to welcome tonight's guests. They are all Oscar nominees for their work in the film. I'm going to start with the film's producer. He is a Genie Award winner, and for his work on this film, a BAFTA and PGA nominee as well. Please welcome Roger Frappier. Emmy nominee that we have loved since Friday Night Lights and hated in Breaking Bad. For his work on Power of the Dog, he is a BAFTA nominee as well. Please welcome Jesse Plemons. He's a remarkable actor who's been impressing us since the age of 9 with films like The Road and Let Me In. He is a BAFTA and SAG Award nominee, Kodi Smit-McPhee. We have someone who has been, since the age of 12, she's been working with the best actors, the best directors in the business, films like Interview with the Vampire, Melancholia, and I have to mention Bring It On. She is an Academy Award nominee and a SAG Award nominee. Please welcome Kirsten Dunst. Simply one of the most acclaimed actors working today who could literally play anything from Sherlock Holmes to Frankenstein's monster. Still, I doubt even his biggest fans were prepared for his stunning transformative work in this film. Please welcome Benedict Cumberbatch. So much for being here. Congratulations. You're all first-time Academy Awards nominated. Well, this is your second. So this is old hat to you, right?
Yeah.
You probably slept through the nomination and everything.
I actually did sleep through it.
No, I always think that
people got so furious with me that my phone wasn't on, but somebody sent me a very sweet message the night before going, no matter what happens tomorrow, and said very nice things about the film, the performance. I was going, no matter what happens, what is happening tomorrow? And I sort of vaguely thought, is it the nominations tomorrow? I don't know. I went to sleep. I just woke up, I went to bed quite late after doing all the things you do, getting a house down, getting ready for the next morning and 3 boys to school. So Sophie wasn't at home. So yeah, I just basically woke up and I was doing breakfast with the boys and getting them into the car and stuff. And then I turned my phone on and it went a bit crazy.
That's insane. Once you got the news, what was your reaction?
A defensive one, because people were furious that my phone was on. No, I was only I tried to share it with them, and it was a difficult crowd. Mixed response. The oldest was sort of going, what does it mean? If you won, what do you have to do to win? Are you going to win? Are you going to win? And the youngest was just a bit put off that it wasn't about him for 5 minutes. And then the middle said, well done, Daddy, that sounds wonderful. He's right.
Yeah. As a middle child, I was a good one too. For the rest of you, this is your first time nomination. Some of you are very overdue. I'd actually say all of you are very overdue, but it's so exciting. Was there a group text going around when you got the news? How did you sort of find out? Kirsten and Jesse, were you actually together?
No, Jesse went to work really early, and I was with our sons, and we were watching Bluey, and I was trying to stream it on my phone, and then my manager calls me, and he's like, you're nominated. I was like, oh, I was waiting for I guess I was late.
I actually did. I checked the time. I was like, wait, can I do this? Is this a reasonable time? And I called her, and then I texted you, and we had a little celebration. Text you.
Yeah, I FaceTimed with Kodi, and I told Jesse because he was working.
I think I'm doing this mini series in Austin, and obviously I knew it was the day, but I had a pretty substantial big scene that day where I was being interrogated under crazy circumstances. And right before rehearsals, Kirsten tries to FaceTime me when there's terrible reception, so I can't make it out. And then she calls me, and I think you said we were both nominated, and I just hear our son screaming, Kirsten screaming. And then my first thought was, I can't suck in this seat today after finding out this news. And I was like, how am I supposed to focus? And then I wasn't going to make an announcement, and so I was just sort of there. And then eventually the AD made an announcement, and everyone was very sweet. And I only worked half the day, so I got to go home and celebrate with Kirsten. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's the way to do it, to be at work and get that news, I think. To know you have your next job lined up. Roger, for you?
Me, it's my third nomination, but nothing like this one. And we were on very early in the morning, and the pleasure was that everyone was nominated. So that was when we arrived at the end. Of course, we jumped in the air, but I was so happy that the 4 actors were nominated. This is for us the greatest moment that when that arrived, because they are an incredible cast, and I was really happy that the 4 of them were nominated. The problem would be Kodi and Jesse. I don't know if they were allowed 2 votes at the Academy.
There can be a tie. Ties are allowed, I believe.
I can try.
I actually want to start with you because, well, it's been 13 years since Jane Campion's last film, Bright Star, was out, and I think we've all been waiting very anxiously for her next movie. You, I believe, had the rights to Thomas Savage's 1967 novel. How did you, well, first of all, what attracted you to that story, and when did you realize that Jane Campion was the perfect director for this?
Well, when that happened 10 years ago, I could not have dreamed at that time that Jane Campion would be directing and writing this movie. And I could not have dreamed of being here tonight with such a cast and having 12 nominations. You know, it's rare for a producer to see the finished product so much better than what we have envisioned at the beginning. And I'm cherished all the time that we are spending with this movie. I just was reading, and you know, this book has been optioned 5 times before I did. It was written in 1967. It's a story that happened in 1924 in Montana. And when I read it, it was an article in an hotel magazine in Paris. It was a sleepless night. I was on jet lag, and there was an article of Gérard Depardieu. They were asking me what's his best wine, his best theater, his best book, and he said The Power of the Dog by Thomas Savage. And I think that I've read someone that he wanted to be George at one point in his life, in the previous discussion. So I read the book during a day and a half, and then I was really taken by it. It's a great piece of literature, and it's a great story. And I found the editor in New York. The rights were not available. I got them a year and a half later, and after that I tried to develop it for many years without any success here. And when I was really at the end of it, not that I wanted to abandon it, I was really wanted to go out to the end. I got a call from Jane Campion asking if the rights were available. And I nearly fell off my chair. You know? I had such great admiration for Jane since an angel at my table, and she said Jane will be in Cannes in 2 weeks, and I said, so do I. And we've met in Cannes, we spent an hour together. I was really, we were on the same wavelength, and I was a little bit shy to ask her to do a selfie. You know, it's like you come from Montreal, you spend an hour with Jane Campion, you talk about the book, and at the end we both stand up, and Jane said, let's do a selfie. So that was the beginning, and after Cannes we spent a week together in Rome, every morning in the same cafe, going each one with the book, and this is the beginning of this great adventure that brought us up to it tonight.
That's amazing. Did you get selfies on set too? Because I'd like to see them, if you have them. That's a yes, I can tell. Benedict, Jane actually told me that she's been wanting to work with you for over 10 years, I think since she saw you in Parade's End, I believe was...
Wow.
I know, did you know that?
I was going to say, I wish you'd told me earlier, but I'm very glad she waited until this moment. I knew that Parade's End was the one that she sort of, that hooked her into something about what I could give to this role. which when you look at it on paper is a bit of a head scratcher, but you know, she's a director who sees more deeply and more profoundly than most of us mere humans do, and I'm very grateful for it. You know, it's rare and it's a very humbling experience, and it's just massively kind of supportive and inspirational and hugely motivating when you get someone who goes, no, I think you're my Phil, and you think when you look at the complexity of that character on the page and in her script, and it was a long journey to get there, and we kind of took it in a very parallel way. She was very caring about anything I felt insecure about, and offered anything I needed to kind of bridge the gap between my lived experience and this character's. So at the same time, all the while expressing her confidence in being able to bring it off. But I'm still trying to think about the comparison between Crystal Teachings and Phil Burbank is quite tricky if you know either of those. Well, you know one of them now, Crystal Teachings, yeah. But again, it's about her vision, and it's about her being able to see that there is a capacity, and she's as generous with you as an actor as she is with you as a person, as she is with your character. You feel seen in every kind of capacity with her. And challenged and brought to new levels of investigation and courage and everything else you need to bring to the work. But primarily, you know, you've got someone on your side to fall back on.
Not just someone, but Jane Campion.
Yeah, for sure. Like one of the greatest directors of all time, a huge icon. But it's really about the personal relationship. How good that director is, it can fall very flat if it's not there in the relationship you have with them. And she builds that. That's as important to her as anything really.
Had she ever reached out to you over those years to let you know she was interested in working, or did you
No.
get the call? Oh, that's so interesting.
Interesting. Phone call, text in the post, Jane. No, but honestly, I'm very glad. I mean, she's had some extraordinary male protagonists in her pieces before, or antagonists or parts, let's just say. I feel there are two male protagonists, and there's three male protagonists, and you know, it's not. Often, lots have been talking about this being her first male lead. There are great male roles in all of her films, however, centered they've been on really incredible female characters, and so you know. But this, for me, is just it's rare that you get someone as extraordinary as that to work with, and I would have done a lot less than Phil Burbank. But then on top of that, you get that kind of a part to work on with her. I mean, yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches.
And Kirsten, for you, Rose is a character that we care about immediately, and you know, it's so challenging to watch her fall apart during the course of this film. What interested you in playing her, and was it an intimidating prospect knowing what she was going to be going through?
Well, you know, you're talking to Benedict about Jane, and Jane had reached out to me when I was really young, like in my early 20s, and I still saved the letter that she wrote me in my phone. I still have it, because that was such a big deal to me. So when Jane, you know, reached out about this, I would do anything for Jane Campion. So I've always been very director-driven. So to me, I would play any part for her. That's just a given. But yeah, I mean, a challenge to me, it's my job. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really see things in that way. I just want to be, you know, give my soul in a way that, you know, it's an exchange between you and all of us. You know what I mean? This is a cyclical thing. So it's like, I just want to make sure I try and make things as real as possible. And I was able to do that in the hands of Jane Campion because of the way she directs and lets things breathe, and you know, that helps your performance shine. You know.
Was there a particular movie of yours she saw that she reached out about? And please tell me it was Bring It On.
You love Bring It On.
I played you for Halloween one year.
You did? That's really awesome. I haven't seen that movie. That's so funny. Yeah, she loves Sofia Coppola. She's a big fan of hers, and so she had seen Sophia's movies. She had seen Marie Antoinette and Virgin Suicide, so we met. It was based off of those movies. Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, it's so.
Kodi, I'm so happy that I'm talking to an audience who has seen this movie, so we can talk openly about your character.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Peter keeps everyone guessing until the end. Can you talk about sort of landing the role and the conversations you had with Jane about, you know, how much to reveal and how much to sort of keep hidden until the very end?
To answer the first part of the question, the first meeting I had with Jane after reading the script, which I guess I got to say, reading the script in and of itself was such a lovely experience. It was, I feel like the first script that very short after I got to the end, I went right back to the beginning and had to read it again with a kind of recontextualized perspective and try and pick up on all those little moments, I guess, from the point of view of Peter, trying to decipher his internalized world and where he's making these choices. But yeah, then I went on to a audition. I did that because it really didn't feel like an audition. It felt like a relaxed conversation between two people that were equally passionate about this beautiful story and wanted to bring it to life. So we had a long talk, first as Kodi and Jane, and then we had a long talk as Peter and Jane, and that was lovely to not be, I guess, stuck to words, to a script, to a specific scene. If anything, for an actor, it kind of puts you on your toes a bit more because you have to pull from the subconscious, psyche of, the essence of this character. But I really enjoyed that, and I felt a great sense of freedom there. So, yeah, I loved that. We had a good time, but then to answer the second part of your question, it kicked into another gear when we started to do the rehearsals. Sometimes it was all of us together, and we all had our own one-on-one time with Jane, which was really where we got to get into the nitty-gritty and, as you say, dive into those areas where we had to start really carving out and assuming where he was making these very strong deciding factors of the choices he would make. But that's an area that I like to leave kind of blurred lines. Otherwise, if we express that too much, at the end of the day, it's just my interpretation of what that story is, and I think it's more beautiful being left to people to decide themselves. But yeah, there was a lot of thought put behind it.
Did you know the first time you read the script what Peter was doing, or did it come as a surprise to you?
Oh God, no. And that's that's the beautiful part, is to see the experience that I had intimately with a story translate in a shotgun blast across, audiences. That's just so satisfying and fulfilling, I guess, as an actor or a creative person overall, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to convey this essence, this message beyond words, through symbolism, image, emotion. And Peter was, I guess, in many challenging ways for me, which was very rewarding at the hands of Jane and guidance of Jane to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Jesse, for you, your character is such the kind, quiet antithesis to Phil in the movie. What's it like to play someone who holds so much inside and is like so capable of turning the other cheek when some of us, kind of wish I'm looking right at you, kind of wish he would punch this guy.
It's a strange experience, unlike anything I've ever really done before. The first thing that comes to mind is this scene towards the end after Rose is given away to Hydes, and sort of the culmination of Phil's petulant rage, and I have the task of going out and then talking to Phil, and that was just unlike any scene I've ever filmed before, because the way I looked at it, George knows a side of Phil that probably no one else does, and is stuck in between these two people that he loves. He still truly loves Phil, and I think has a sympathy for the sort of hand that he's been dealt in life, and and obviously what Benedict did in that scene was amazing, and not at all sort of how it read, and it was I don't really know how to explain it, but it was a very odd but interesting experience to just receive all of this and apologize. There's something about George that I don't know. This probably makes no sense, but I listened to that Beatles song, "Fool on the Hill," and there's something about George that he's very easy to judge and sort of make your assumptions about. But on the other hand, there's something kind of evolved about the way that he moves through the world and his ability to, like I said, not take the bait, and that was a lot of fun to play with.
I think it would be I think that you would be in a happy place getting to play George because he is such a great guy. Like, I worry about the three of you a little bit.
I was living with this one.
What's that like? Because you're going through hell on a daily basis, and he gets to be the happy guy.
At least I get like hugs at lunch, you know?
From Jesse only, because.
Yes.
Okay. Well, no. Right, because there's been much made that you two kept your distance from each other during shooting. So when did you actually get to meet?
At the weekends.
Oh,
We were
okay.
as families, yeah, we've got kids, and that was fine. And then we were at work.
Did you ever feel like you needed to apologize?
Yeah, all the time.
I remember one day I walked.
Even to Jessie as well. I just all the time about what I said to George, about how I treat her. And at heart, I'm a bit of an apologetic people pleaser, but I'd rather be that than Phil. So yeah, there were definitely moments where I was like, this is fucking hard. I've just made friends with these people, and I'm just full of admiration for all their work. I'm amazed that I'm working in a film with them, and I've got to abuse them for 3 months and counting, But they're professionals. You guys doing a job. And
Yeah,
I enjoyed it a little bit
Feel
from
it.
time to time. You must have enjoyed it a little bit.
I enjoyed mobbing him to Jane, actually. Which she enjoyed as well. She went, I loved when you all filmed with me. She's not here to answer that, but yeah, we can get into that another time maybe. No, did I enjoy it? No, generally it was a thing I had to sort of push and sublimate my own kind of experience of it into some other place and just see it through his eyes. I really had to be very subjective about the whole thing, which meant I was very cut off from everything, which meant I could sit in an audience of a film and just be blown away by work that I literally couldn't be conscious of, either on the day or if it wasn't with Kodi, with obviously the other scenes I'm not part of. This amazing love story in the middle of this film, which is one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen on film. And this incredible journey from strength in the alienating landscape to alcoholism and collapse, and then this generous offering of kindness being the thing that then sets the spring for this genius assassin to then do his. I mean, it's kind of amazing to sit in the audience and go,
Doctor.
wow.
Doctor.
Doctor assassin.
Surgeon.
Genius doctor assassin. Yeah.
Maybe I should ask, did you ever apologize to him?
No, there was this beautiful kind of, obviously we didn't shoot in order like most films, and so because we understood where the kind of strange entanglement of our characters' relationship went, even though they're butting heads and they're in this kind of duel of power, they also, they become very close. So we had that elasticity, I think more than others speaking on behalf of you more than others, that you had with people to have a bit of a laugh.
I think also it was nice to sort of, approach it as we had, as like you described, the audience kind of thing, that initial response to a script, and then start to play the roles. Do you know what I mean? We came together from understanding what eventually we know what the outcome of the story is, we know the ending, and then having to sort of slightly sublimate that and let stuff that was beyond the game ship come out was I don't know about you, but I think I can speak for you on this as well. Not as well as you speak about me, but I think it's a joy to have layers of complexity to play, especially when you're being held by Ari's lens and in Jane's sparse script with her kind of specificity and how she sees things. It's just, it's one of the things about the Western as a genre, but especially the way this story is told, which is how the Western actually acts out. It's just a story device, really, in this film. But it just lets you hold those things all together in one moment, one look, one touch, one gesture. And it's not about demonstrating, it's just about feeling and being it.
I would love to talk about some of the preparation for this film because Kirsten, I believe I read that both you and Benedict did dream work. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails? I actually am embarrassed to admit I wasn't familiar with this, but whatever you guys are doing is working, so I'd love to know.
Well, I've worked with this woman, Greta Seacat, since I was 27, so I've been doing, you know her?
I know Sandra Seacat.
Yeah, that's her daughter. So I work with her daughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do work that, it really just grounds you. It gets into your unconscious mind and you write yourself notes before you go to bed, and then whatever you dream, you write down, and you could literally act it out and find the biggest clues for your role. So it really just, it goes, I think, deeper than, just your conscious mind. And for me, it's grounded me more so and given me more confidence in a way, but that's one element. But yeah, I know Benedict and
Kim Gillingham is your
and Jane did too.
And Jane, she hadn't done it before.
Yeah.
And she said, "Do you fancy doing some uni and dream analysis?" And I was like, "Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound, why not?" And again, what a wonderful thing to be able to experience that for the first time and use it. And it is this wonderful thing whereby you kind of let your, it's like training for your intuition, really. It's to know those things that feel deeply, intuitively apt or right to at least try or put out there. It can be grounded in something beyond just a feeling. You've had a further connection to that feeling and why it exists. It's an amazing thing to do. I thoroughly recommend it.
Kodi, for you, where do you even begin to prepare to play a master genius Dr. Ninja Assassin?
Of course, I think Benedict touched on this before. We all come with our own approach and ideas about how we're going to approach character development, but it's really in the hands of Jane that it's elevated to another level. For me specifically, she invited me into doing Alexander technique and some body movement specialist, which a lot of people ask what that is, but it was specifically just, I guess, bringing the essence of Peter just into his body and his likeness and his kind of fragile but confident nature just into his body. And then also revisiting other techniques that, sometimes we naively judge that we've possibly mastered. Jane was a great reminder that, we never master anything. We're always a student of the world, if not that, our craft for sure. And so I revisited a dialect coach, and that's really where the lisp came into it. And again, I would have done these little subtle kind of versions of it because I'm one to really downplay, which is why I love playing Peter. But Jane, I was able to put my complete trust into her when she told me to turn these things up. I'm very grateful for that, and I think I ended with a very different end product than how I would have approached Peter.
Really?
Much more rewarding, in fact, and daring, I guess. So yeah.
Jesse, for you, how worried were you when you found out Kirsten Dunst was playing your wife that you would have chemistry? Or not?
Very concerned, yeah.
Did you really have to work on that?
We did. Countless hours.
What was the biggest challenge of this character, though? Because he is the more internal, but which is equally, if not more challenging sometimes.
I guess the sort of having faith that everything that you're doing is coming across, but the sort of structure that Jane created, her giving us this 2 or 3 weeks to rehearse, you obviously have your own process that you bring into it, but then getting to work through your own sort of ideas and instincts while also working with her and having this environment where you can experiment and make mistakes, that was all really helpful and just pretty unusual for films. I don't think I've ever had that long of a rehearsal process. But it was just, it was sort of, I realized fairly early on that the majority of the information, in the book especially, as well as the script, the majority of the information you're getting, it's all through Phil's lens. And there were a few scenes that from the book that really kind of opened my eyes to the fact that there's much more going on beneath the surface with George. So I don't know.
Yeah, I read the book right after I saw it, and I was surprised how much about George there was in there. I wondered if you used it as a resource.
Yeah, there's a scene where Peter is eavesdropping on Rose and George, and he's sort of reminiscing about this beach, and it's as sort of emotional, and I mean he's really dreaming, you know, and I don't know. It is in the script. It obviously, you know, the scene on the hill is beautifully written, and you do get a glimpse in, but it's tiny little glimpses. So yeah, I think just the leap of faith, hoping that everything that's happening beneath the surface translates. You know.
And Roger, you are making a period piece, a Western, no less, during a COVID-19 pandemic. Your leading man is filthy through the whole thing. What did end up being the biggest challenge for you?
Well, we stopped right in the middle of the shoot in March, but we were lucky in the same time because we had finished all the exterior shoot. We were moving inside in the studio. That was in March. We could not start again until June the 16th for the last 16 days. But like during the whole production and the post-production and like here, I mean, being with Netflix, there was such a great partner all the way through. I mean, even during the pandemic, all the help we had from them, and they were a great partner during the production. They are a fantastic partner at the moment for the publicity and the campaign that they're doing. And like they were all talking, you know, for me the biggest difficulty when I read the book was the adaptation. And I think to adapt a book is more difficult than to write an original script because but when I read the book, there was the description of these characters. It was so fantastic. And Jane, with her great talent, she was able to keep the essence of the book and to put her own vision on top of it, which I think is why this movie is so exceptional.
She is astounding. She's the only woman to be nominated for Best Director twice. And I think that says a lot. She's so fantastic. And I know you've all been traveling around the world with this movie. The response has been so overwhelming. What has it been like to get to share this finally with the world after you worked so hard on it for so long?
Well, we're on the road since September 2nd, starting in the
I mean, it's been fantastic, and it's the same kind of thing that we had going back to the work and realising how fortunate we are to not only do our jobs, but be able to do something like that. After the pandemic, nothing was taken for granted, and I think the work was enriched, not just because of that, but just everything that we've been through, and the effort it took for Jesse and Kirsten and everyone to come back who had left and us staying. It was just so charged with purpose. And I think it's the same being back here, having an audience in a cinema, you know, a full house watching a film that you're incredibly proud of and able to talk about and have that sense of community within the communication of what you've done. And it's been remarkable. It's been great to be celebrating and getting back to something like a normality with a film of this quality that I'm not speaking for all of us, but you know, I'm so thrilled to be a part of. You know.
We're all pretty thrilled.
Yeah, I can speak for all of us, I think.
I do want to remind people, actually, let people know this is still playing in some theaters, because I'm usually not that person who says you have to see it in a theater, but if you can, come on. I mean, but also you can go home tonight and watch it on Netflix. I want to thank you so much for being such a great audience. Thank you all so much for being